two. Welcome again. My name is Dennis Donko, and I'm going to be one of the trainers today. I'm joined here by my colleague Laura, who is going to take most of the training. So, Laura, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Laura Oberman. And yes, I will be beginning the training. Dennis will then walk you through the platform that you'll be using to enter some information for us so that we can conduct the evaluation. And you'll also get our contact information. You'll receive these slides. You are going to also receive a user guide as well as an abridged version of the user guide specific to just the three pieces of information we need entered. We call them cheat sheets. So we will go through all of this. And feel free to enter questions in the chat or just note them down, and we'll have some stopping points where we'll do some check-ins for understanding or just to see if anyone has questions. So this is a training to support the fidelity evaluation of high-fidelity wraparound care coordination. That is a part of Ohio RISE, and we are with Case Western and the Center for Innovative Practices, Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Center of Excellence. You will receive our information, so you don't have to write it down now. Just an overview of why we're doing this. High fidelity care coordination is an evidence-informed model and associated with certain outcomes. So the benefit of measuring fidelity is if you want those outcomes, the belief is you need to be implementing the program as intended by the designers. And so that is why we're doing this, to see how closely care coordination is being implemented as intended. It is a requirement that was written into the Ohio Code for Ohio RISE. But beyond that, the reason why it's a requirement is because it does provide useful information. It can complement a continuous improvement, quality improvement. And just one moment, we've had a request. Yes, I can put the slides in the chat. So let me just grab that. Copy and paste that. There you go. So if you would like to look along, you may. Okay. So in addition to complementing ongoing quality improvement efforts, it can increase the likelihood of consistency across Ohio, across different providers and agencies, that care coordination for moderate and intensive care coordination is being implemented in a uniform way. It provides accountability. And when I say accountability, I do not mean this is information that will be used for your performance evaluations. We are not looking at anything at the level of the care coordinator. It's all aggregate at the level of the agency or the overall CME, if the CME has subdelegates. And but with this information, when we look at it in aggregate, it can provide gaps that could benefit from professional development, so areas in need of improvement, as well as strengths, areas that are being performed as intended and resulting in good fidelity. We will be using a survey that we will talk about in a moment, and there will be 3 respondent types, only 2 for each family. So the care coordinator will always be one of the respondent types of a youth included in the evaluation. And then it will either be a caregiver or an adult youth, a caregiver if it's a minor, or a youth who's 18 or older and working with a caregiver on the team. If it's a youth 18 or older who is serving as their own caregiver, then the youth will be the respondent. So I said of youth included in the evaluation. We will, depending on how many, depending on the size of your evaluation, the size of your caseload for your agency, and who is determined eligible. So first, we receive data from Aetna in that point in time, who Aetna has in their records as being served by your agency. Then we determine from that who is eligible for the evaluation. To be eligible, the youth must have an active status and have had the opportunity to receive care coordination for at least 4 months. So we look at, do they have a care plan in place and the consent date. Then, of those determined eligible, it may be all or a subset who are included in the evaluation, depending on the caseload size. So for caseloads of 133 or more, and this is across tiers 2 and 3, so those all youth combined, we will take 30% of eligible clients. If the caseload is between 41 and 132 eligible, then 40 youth will be randomly selected. And if it's 40 or less eligible youth, all youth will be included in the evaluation. We will be using, and we will be doing the random selection. We will be using a survey called the Wraparound Fidelity Index brief version, or WFI-EZ for short. It was developed by the University of Washington and is a brief self-administered survey. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even less, to complete. It covers adherence to wraparound principles. And there's also a satisfaction for caregiver and youth for those two versions. So the caregiver has all 4 sections. There's a basic information that looks at, is there a care plan in place, and a couple other questions. The experiences in wraparound, that's the meat of this. That's where the fidelity scores are derived. And then there's an outcome section that looks at system involvement since starting wraparound and functioning in the last 30 days. System involvement meaning, like, has there been a new out-of-home placement? Has there been negative interaction with law enforcement? Any suspensions or expulsions from school? Functioning is looking at, has the child's behavior caused disruptions in the home? Have there been problems that made it difficult to maintain community activities or friendships? And then a satisfaction section. You as care coordinator, your survey has the first 3 sections: basic information, experiences, and outcomes. And then youth, they have 3 sections. They do not have the outcome section. We are using a platform called WrapStat that is housed and developed, housed, and maintained by the University of Washington. And it allows us to be able to do this digitally so that we don't have to use a paper and pencil across Ohio to conduct this evaluation. So it provides an efficient mechanism for sending out surveys and storing the data as surveys are completed. It basically allows for automation of the evaluation. And how this works, again, as I said, is we receive the data from Aetna, we determine who's eligible, and then we upload eligible youth to WrapStat. Youth are identified by a unique WRAP ID, which is their CANS recipient ID, but you will also see their names in the youth roster in WrapStat. We just ask that if you're searching by ID, you don't try to find by their CANS assessment ID or a Medicaid ID. It's the recipient ID. And you will receive a printout that has that ID with youth names, probably at some point next week. Okay, you will have your own login to WrapStat. Your super users have added you as site users to WrapStat and have or will be soon sending out invitations for you to activate your account. And we'll go over that process in a moment. We will, at the COE, send out invitations. The invitations have survey links. You will receive your invitation to your professional email, your agency email. Caregivers or adult youth, they will receive via email and or text to a phone, a cell phone, a smartphone, depending on what is entered by you in the youth roster. And then the data will be stored in WrapStat. So up to now, we have trained the super users and they have entered you in those places. They have verified that youth, yes, they are still on our books because Aetna's data that we receive is not as up to date as the member assignment files. So they've already identified a number of youth who have discharged, or hey, this youth isn't with us, they're with our subdelegate, and we've made those changes. But you might still run into some of that as you're going in to enter information, and we have a way for you to get that information to us. So you will be provided a list of the youth who've been randomly selected for whom you're providing care coordination. We will be sending out the invites, and then your super users will be sending out reminders. They'll providing support to you throughout this and communicating with us any kind of enrollment issues that you encounter. You will enter contact information for the caregiver or the youth, never both, and communicate any kind of enrollment irregularities to your super users. You will complete the care coordinator with EZ. If you have more than one youth who has been randomly selected, you will receive an invitation separately for each youth. And then to encourage caregivers or youth to complete. There is a paper and pencil version if you have families that do not have access to a smartphone or to email and a computer. And we would ask you as you're entering that information and become aware of that to let us know, let your super user know, let us know, so we can document that and make sure that your super user explains to you the process for the paper and pencil administration. You can begin informing families as soon as you see who has been selected, when you meet with them in team meetings, and to encourage them to complete. You can also inform new families that there's a possibility they'll be selected, and we have an information sheet we will share with you. So this kind of goes over the timeline. We hope to send invitations out by the 28th. And once they are out, that's when the clock starts for the first month. So there's 2 months to complete the survey. And in the first month, they get the invitations. We will be monitoring any bounce back information and reach out to say, hey, this caregiver didn't receive anything, both forms bounced back or the only form bounced back. If at least one form, if they have both and one form goes through, we'll leave it as is. And then after 2 weeks that the invitations have been sent, super users will send out reminders. And then throughout the second month, they can send reminders. We will start sending a completion progress with response rates beginning in the second month. If you are serving a youth who you've just recently been assigned to, we've informed the super users and are just letting you know here as well that you can wait till towards the end of that second month to complete the WFI-EZ. You can wait till you've had some experience with the youth and family before you complete it. And if you serve a youth who you are not working with at the moment you open that survey, that youth has been sent to Aetna or moved, you have not received that request mistakenly. We have determined based on when the change happened. If the change happens after the date the evaluation cycle was created, we still want you to complete the survey because it is retrospective. And so it is not a mistake. We have already determined with the, work with your super users, if anyone who was selected really shouldn't have been because they were ineligible, and we'll close out those surveys. So if you're receiving the invitation, it's likely because even though the youth is not on your workload that day, they were when the evaluation cycle was created. So your super users have already done the first two things. We have already created the evaluation cycle, and your super users are in the process right now of making sure that the youth, that the care coordinator associated with the youth in the Aetna data file is accurate. It might not be. As I said, their data file does not have the most up-to-date care coordinator information. And so they are getting that corrected. And once they are done, they will then download the list of all the sampled youth and their correct care coordinators and share with you who your youth are. So that should be happening by Monday. And then you will then do what you're being trained to do, to go in and enter in the information, which we would like completed by the 25th so that invitations can be sent out on the 28th. And again, you are not responsible for all the youth you work with who you will see on the youth roster. You are only responsible for the youth who've been sampled, the youth you receive in that Excel spreadsheet. While you're going in and entering the contact information, it's at that point to make note, let your super users know if you do see someone and you're not sure why they've been included in the evaluation. And also if they need it in a different language than English, or if there are any other kind of barriers, like they're going to need the paper and pencil version. Then, as I said, then those reminders get sent out 2 weeks after the invitations. Then when the evaluation closes, we will then be downloading the data and working on the report. Are there any questions up to this point? Okay. This is that information sheet, and at the bottom will be the contact information of your super users. And the super users are just our term for the point people, like our direct contact who then supports you. They are not your supervisors. They work with your supervisors, potentially. Okay, so this is the invitation that you can share at team meetings. And just lastly, you really are the vital link in the chain for this to be successful, as you are the ones working with the families. And it is difficult to get caregivers and youth to respond. They already have the burden of, answering multiple forms and questionnaires throughout this process based on, the agency, the health system, how they got referred to begin with. But we do ask you to encourage them that this is an opportunity for them to share their voice as to their experiences, ultimately, just for Ohio-Rise to provide the best care to youth and families. When you receive your invitation, if you have not already, to activate your account, you will receive an invite like this in your email. So you would click Activate Account. If you haven't received it, by the end of the week, check your spam, or maybe even by, well, no, what's today? By the end of by midweek next week. No, by the end of this week. I'm sorry. Check your spam and let your super user know. Because if they have sent it and you're not getting it, there could be a technical thing, and we're also monitoring that on our end. But hopefully, fingers crossed, no problems. You all get your invite and you click activate account. And that will guide you to create your password. Your username is always the email through which you received the invitation. And then the first time you log in, you'll fill these, hit login, and you'll go through a multi-factor authentication process. It's a two-step process that basically asks you to click send email to, and it will be that professional email, and then click send me a 6-digit code. You'll receive another email pretty shortly thereafter. You copy that code, put it here. After you hit this and hit send me a 6-digit code, this will appear. So you'll put the code in that field. Click trust and remember this device before you hit submit code, and you shouldn't have to go through that process again. And at that point, you will be in to WrapStat, and it will take you as a default to the data dashboard. The data dashboard basically just shows you completion progress. You don't need to worry about any of that. You will have specific permissions, and Dennis will take you through that. I believe you might only be assigned to one site. So this might not apply to you. If you were ever a care coordinator with an agency that served multiple sites, then it would say hello in your name, and you'd click this little triangle and choose the site you're interested in that day. But I don't think that would be for you. Before Dennis takes over, we've been talking about caregiver. So the caregiver, it's important when the caregiver is included, because they're the ones to provide their perspective in caretaking for the youth and their perspective of the wraparound experience. But we know caregiver does not always mean the legal guardian. And in fact, it could be if the youth lives with a biological parent and a step parent, it could be the step parent. It doesn't have to be the biological parent who's entered as the caregiver. It's whoever is working on the team. And but some youth may also be in CSB custody, a ward of the state. And so we have some guidelines as to how to determine who you would enter as caregiver. So for youth who are in their family of origin or an adoptive family, foster or kinship home, the caregiver would be the biological parent, adoptive parent, foster parent, or kinship home parent. If the youth is in child welfare custody and is in some type of residential or group home setting, it will be the caseworker who is the caregiver, not a staff member of the group home or residential home. So if you find that you're entering caseworker information, we ask you to send that caseworker an email alerting them that they will be invited to take a caregiver survey. Because if you do not, they likely will say, I'm not the caregiver, and close out. But when they get that heads up, then they know and they expect the invitation, and they'll know to complete it. For youth who are in their biological or family of origin, biological or adoptive parent custody, and are in a residential center, it would still be the biological parent or adoptive parent who would complete the survey as caregiver. Okay, so I am at this point going to stop sharing so that Dennis can take over. And we're going to be working in a demo site that we have set up. when we show you.
Thank you, Laura. So as Laura just took you through, you're going to be receiving a link or an email with instructions on how to activate your account. So that's following the instructions, and that's going to help you set up your username and then create your password. And then you go back to the link that takes you into WrapStat, and then that's going to bring you on this page to asking for you to enter your username, which will be your official email address, and then your password, whichever password you create. When you're entering the first time, as Laura mentioned, you have to do a two-factor authentication. I don't have to do it because I've been in there so many times. So I just type in my username, password, and then I click login. By default, the first page that you're going to see when you get into WrapStat is the dashboard, which basically gives you progress on the evaluation cycle, information you may not need. You can look at it, but yeah, just for information's sake. When you get into WrapStat, you would need to first make sure your permission levels are correct. We check that, but also check it just to make sure if we did not see anything, you can spot it, and then you can reach out to your super user, and then they can correct that for you. To do that, you come to the top and check the number of tabs that you have access to. So as you can see here, I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. As care coordinators, you're only supposed to have access to 3 tabs. So if you're having access to more than 3 tabs, then it's a mistake. You need to reach out to your super user. I'm going to show you how your page is most likely going to look like. So your page is going to look something like this. You can see I have access to just 3 tabs. It's the dashboard, the youth roster, and then the resource center. So now let's go through the tabs one at a time. I've already talked about the dashboard, so let's go to the resource center. So the resource center also has resources that have been created by University of Washington on how to use WrapStat. They have videos, they have documents that you can read, they have videos broken down into little parts. Personally, I do not recommend, because we have created resources that are tailor-made for the work that you are supposed to be doing in WrapStat. So if you want to explore, that's fine, but spare yourself some time and just use the resources that we are going to give you so that you'll be able to do the work as accurately as possible. The resources that we are going to be giving you would be a video, which I'm still working on. Is going to come maybe sometime next week or at a later date. We're going to give you a user guide, which is kind of comprehensive and has images or screenshots of WrapStat and all the stuff that you're supposed to be doing as care coordinators. We are going to be giving you the PowerPoint slides that Laura is using for this presentation. You'll be given what we call the cheat sheet, which is more of a summary of specific things that you would have to be doing as care coordinators. And then other resources that don't come, it's not coming, but would help whatever you're supposed to be doing. So yes, the resource center you have access to, but don't really waste your time there. The last tab, which is a youth roster, is where you're going to do most of your work, or pretty much all of your work. So the youth roster, when you click on it, is going to show you all youth that are eligible for this evaluation that are in your agency. What that means is that you are going to see youth that you do not work with. So you do not have to be scared when you get there and you are seeing somebody, you don't have to reach out to your super user or anybody like, I don't work with this youth. You're going to see everybody in your agency. So that's fine. The second thing I want to mention is that the youth on the youth roster are youth that are eligible that the COE is going to upload. So if you work with a youth and then you do not see them there, it means that they are not eligible. You do not have to add the youth. That means that you will need to avoid this last button here with a plus sign on it that says add youth. We are not adding any youth to WrapStat. All the youth that are there, so if you do not see or any youth that you work with, it technically means that none of the youth you work with are eligible, which is okay. It means you get to have a free pass on this. Yes, so that is what you're going to see on the youth roster. Now your super users are going to do a few things in WrapStat before you actually get going. But whilst they are doing their end, you also have to be providing some information for the youth in that you work with in on the youth roster. So when your super users, when we run the evaluation cycle, are going to send you a list of the youth that you work with that have actually been sampled. So that means that they are not just eligible, but they are going to be receiving surveys to complete, and they are going to be part of the evaluation cycle itself. When your super users send you that list, the COU will also be sending you a spreadsheet which has columns of information that you need to be gathering for all the youth that your super users are going to be sending you. So just to explain what I'm saying is that if you see 10 youth on here that you work with, maybe 3 of them are going to be sampled, and then your super users are going to tell you those 3 youth that have been sampled, and they're going to give you a list of those youth. So when you come here and then you are able to get all the information on these 3 youth on the spreadsheet that we are going to give you, the next step for you would be to find those youth. And there are 2 ways of doing that, or there are a couple of ways of doing that. You can search the youth by using their WRAP ID or their TENS recipient ID. So if I want to find this 3rd youth here, I can type in 988, and then it filters just that youth out and takes everybody out. I can also search by the youth's name. So their first name is Julie. You can just type in Julie. Okay, so once you know the youth that you work with that have been sampled and are part of the evaluation cycle, you come here and then you search for them. And then you need to provide some information for these youth. To do that, you click this button here that says Edit Youth, and then this page is going to open up for you. The first information that will be very important for you to provide is the contact information. So move here to the right and click on contact information. Contact information is what is going to be used to send out the surveys to either the caregiver, or if it's an adult youth who is their own caregiver. This is where we are going to get that information to send the surveys out. So please make sure you complete this accurately. Now, what you're going to do here is that if a youth, which most of them would, has a caregiver, you provide their name, provide their phone number, email address, and then you do not provide mailing address. That means you don't need and their mailing address, their city, their state, zip code, all that information. You don't need it. When you scroll down and then you hit on save. If a youth is 18 plus, they do not have a caregiver, they are their own caregiver, then you do not have to provide information for caregiver or parent. You need to scroll past that, and then you cut to youth contact information. Because the youth's name would already be in the system, it's not asking for their name. You type in their phone number, their email address. Again, we don't need their mailing address, so you scroll past that and then you hit save. You may have noticed that there's a button here that says same as caregiver. Please do your possible best to avoid it at all costs. You do not need to click on that button for any reason. When you click on that button, what happens is that it's just going to populate the information you provide for the caregiver for the youth contact information. We do not need that to happen. We'll be auditing this information you are going to enter. But what that does is that the caregiver then will be receiving the youth survey and then the caregiver survey. We do not want that to happen. So like I said, we'll try our possible best to audit this and support you to change it if you did that. But just so that we save ourselves some time, avoid this button. Don't click same as caregiver. We are also not going to ask you for team member contact information, so please do not complete this last part. Again, we all want to save ourselves some time and we want to be efficient as possible. So let's just stick with the instructions and follow what you're supposed to do and do that. Once you provide the correct information here, you hit save and then you are done with that. The next thing you will have to do is go to the demographic information tab. And then you don't need to provide any information here apart from the legal custodian, which Laura just explained to you how you're going to know who the legal custodian is. So once you know or you determine who the legal custodian is, you click the drop down here, you go through it, and then you select whichever one applies. If none of them applies, you can select other, and then you can specify what you mean by that. And then once we are done with that, you hit save. And then you move to the last information that you'll be providing for that youth. You go to the enrollment tab, and then you scroll down. There are some baseline questions here that you need to complete. And then there's direction here on the duration of time that that event should have happened. It should have happened within the year prior to enrollment. Most of the questions here, you just need to read it and select whichever one applies. However, there are some of them that do have follow-ups, like the first one, I know for sure. If you selected yes, it will ask you the number of arrests that would have the youth would have experienced. You can type it in, or you can use these up and down arrows to specify the number. And then once you're done with that, you hit save again, and then you are done completing that information for the first youth on your list. So if it is just one youth that was sampled that you work with, that you receive from your super user, then it means you are done. If there are more youth on that list, then you have to provide the same information for those youth. And then you'll be done with provision of information. The next step will be completing the surveys for these youth, and I'm going to hand over again to Laura to take you through how you're going to do that and how the surveys look like.
Okay. Yes. Once you receive your invitation, activate your account to make sure there are no technical difficulties, and then you wait until you hear from your super user or supervisor, depending on how your agency is working, that it's time to go in and start entering the information. If you're pressed for time, as Dennis said, the contact information is crucial. We cannot send out invitations without contact information. And the reason why we can't have information in both the caregiver and the youth section is that the only way WrapStat knows who to send an invitation to is by what's entered in the contact information. And the caregiver and the youth have different versions. So if you entered the caregiver information and then you hit same as caregiver and it populates again in the youth field, that person's going to get an invite to take the caregiver survey and the youth survey. So that's going to be confusing. We don't want that to happen. So we'll be monitoring because we can see on our end how the the contact information. And if we see it's been entered for both, we will let your super users know so that they can reach out to get that corrected. Okay. So I'm going to skip all that Dennis talked about. So this is the invitation that you'll receive to complete your survey. It will not have the youth's name in the invitation, but don't worry, we don't expect you to memorize their CANS recipient IDs. When you click Take Survey, you will then see who the youth is. Regrettably, there will be just giving you a heads up, sibling pairs, we've been informed by super users that both have been selected. And there's no way to avoid that in WrapStat. I'll discuss it internally with our team, but it's just a random selection. So they both were randomly selected to complete. And how a caregiver does it, maybe they're only going to complete for one and not the other or both. We'll see how that goes, but we can't do anything about that on our end. But you as well, you'll be asked to complete for each of your youth randomly selected. So it's when you open the survey that you will know for which youth the survey goes with. And then you'll go through each section. So you will be asked to, so I get my invitation and I hit Take Survey, and it's going to take me to the survey. And I hit Continue. It says who the youth is. Okay, this was already populated, but yes, I am the care coordinator. The reason why I say don't hit no, because the youth is not in your on your MAF that day, is then you have to do some stuff on the back end to be able to, if you're told, no, we do want you to take it, to go back in. So if you're not sure, just close out. And if that happens, you go back in and it's going to, you won't be asked for the date, but this is just because it first said no. Okay, so then we say next. And you're going to just click the boxes. You can leave something blank or click don't know if you're not sure. But it's just a click. And then when you're done, there's also, if you want to leave any comments, there's a place for that, both after the wraparound experiences section and the outcomes and system involvement section. And then what's really important is that you hit complete when you're finished. Because if you don't, it won't register as complete. It'll stay in progress. And we want you to get the credit for it being complete. Okay, so I'm going to close out of that. Just received a question about, yes, only active members. That's what we told you. Only active members can be eligible. And so only active members, according to Aetna, were uploaded to the youth roster. Then last week, your super users did a heroic task of going through hundreds of youth and determining which ones really weren't active prior to, our doing the evaluation cycle. And we discharged them. So they will not be showing up under the active filter in the youth roster. So if, however, they weren't identified prior to our doing the evaluation cycle, so they really weren't eligible, but they slipped through the cracks, and we ran the evaluation cycle. And we've been told since then, actually, this youth discharged June 1st. Okay, we have closed out their surveys. They will not be included. You will not, your survey's been closed out for them. You will not receive an invitation for them. And we have removed them from the active status, we've discharged them in WrapStat. So if you see someone that you think shouldn't be, don't do anything, let your super user know. Because it could be, yes, they're not with you as of today, but they were still with you at the time the evaluation cycle was created, and that's why they are staying as active, and that's why you are being asked, and they will be sent an invitation to complete the WFI-EZ. Okay, so that's that. This is an example of what the caregivers will receive. So these are the invitations. We've created templates. We're not using the default in WrapStat. And they just click on the take survey, or in their text, it'll, have a link there. When they go in, they are asked, are you the caregiver? And that's why we are asking the caseworkers be told, please say yes, you are considered the caregiver for these purposes. Then after they answer that, they then proceed, and they have the option of English or Spanish. Well, actually, before they go into this, they have the option of English or Spanish, and then they respond. They then are asked if they give consent. Are they willing to take this? If they say no, and then complete, they're done. They won't get any reminders. They're done. And you get credit in your response rate, because they did go in. Your response rate isn't only those who agreed to do it. It's just those who went in and accessed. And so in case you're wondering, they do have the opportunity to consent, yes or no. And if it's no, they're done. Okay.